This is the usual sound when the siren goes off, the air raid that goes off. It's piercing and absolutely disgusting. Can you hear that? Friends, today I would like to take you to one of the most magical walks in Ukraine. We are in Kyiv, and behind me is Andrew's Descent. It's called sometimes Kyiv's Montmartre, the place where myths, witches, beautiful Baroque architecture and memories live side by side. I am Olga, your Kyiv tour guide, and even though the war keeps all of you far away, I'm still here in Kyiv, walking these beautiful ancient streets and sharing the stories and waiting to welcome all of you in person when this awful barbaric Russian war ends. So subscribe not to miss the opportunity to visit Kyiv with a professional guide one day. We'll explore a fairy tale cobblestoned winding street, lost palace and sacred stones. We'll talk about nobles and princes who lived on the top of the hill, painters who are still drawing their beautiful artworks here, and we will even touch the raw piece of the truth. Because in the middle of the war, beauty and history matter more than ever. At this point, the road begins to bend. We start our walk down the magical Andrew's Descent, and it's not just the street. The locals call it Kyiv's Montmartre because it really resembles the famous street in Paris. It's a cobblestone slope, and it's full of art. Sometimes you can find here even Soviet stuff. There are a lot of souvenirs. Painters are here drying their artwork. You can find ceramic, handmade jewelry, and the scent of coffee and fried vareniki, which means dumplings, will be your friendly shadow. The buildings here are just stunning. Let's begin our walk and dive into these pastel facades, Baroque balconies and windows that seemingly wink at you. Some buildings are homes, and some are museums, and some are haunted. But you need to see everything with your own eyes. The descent leads you from the ancient Hill of Rulers straight into Podil, the young, creative and rebellious heart of the city. And today we're exploring the most mysterious and vibrant street of Kyiv, Andrew's Descent. The street is more than just cobblestones. It's a living museum. It's a village-like path lined with the local cafes, art galleries, craft stalls. All of them are run by the Kyiv's dreamers and creators. You don't just walk here, you breathe the history of the city. Back in the day, Kyiv was the city of two parts, the upper town and the lower town. The upper town was the place where elite lives, princes, nobles, and the lower town, Podil, was the area of potters, tanners, blacksmiths, and the winding bridge between these worlds was Andrew's Descent. This one tiny street connected silk royal robes and leather aprons. This is where the soul of Kyiv lives. It's about contrasts and coexistence. The Descent became the cultural artery in the 19th century because artists, musicians, poets and rebels came to live here, and it still has this vibe. It's called Kyiv's Montmartre, but it has some kind of mischief and mystery and a lot of magic. The house numbering doesn't follow any logic because it goes from bottom to top, just like the ancient spells that are written backwards. Old legends say that witchers used to pray in reverse. Maybe they still do, because the bold mountain where the witchers are gathering for their Sabbath is right here around the corner. This street existed even in the times of Kievan Rus, but it was muddy and only passable on foot or horseback. Finally, in the 18th century, it was widened, and the carts were able to rattle down its path because it is very steep. And even now, it has this intimate feel. Even during the war, it continues to live. Let's peel another layer of Kyiv's most mysterious street. Kyiv's Andrew's descent have always been full of drama, beauty, and one's desire. Because in the 18th, 19th century, this Kyiv's street was the center of a red light district. Elegant carriages would stop directly at unmarked doors, and this steep cobblestone street was lined not with souvenir stalls and art galleries, but it was filled with the glow of red lanterns and the whispers of the forbidden pleasure. Back then, they were called the houses of tolerance, and that was quite a poetic and polite name, but in reality, they were brothels, and there were many of them. Once the scandal shook the city. A Kyiv governor died right here in the brothel, in the arms of a young lady. The city tried to hide this fact, but the stories like that, they don't stay quiet for a long time. But the golden age of this underground world came in the 19th century. That was the era of industrialization. The city was booming with the sugar barons, grain magnates, and the railway station was operating. So laborers, builders, traders, and they all came here, and their pockets were full of money. And they had hungry hearts as well. They wanted love. And that is how this Andrew's descent became not holy, but a little bit sinful place. Until something has changed when a writer moved here. And that writer was very pious. The morality came with him, so the brothels were moved away, and just the whispers of those houses remind us about romantic past of Andrew's descent. Andrew's descent is about 1 kilometer long, and it's paved with cobblestones. They have seen centuries. And the street is full of riddles. The street bends like the letter S, looping around the infamous Bald Hill. It's a place once believed to host witchers' Sabbaths. Until recently, the street had a few houses, numbered 13. Probably it's a coincidence or a spooky Kyiv humor. The war has taken a lot from us, but not this street. If you come here today, you will see painters, they still paint, musicians who still play, the sellers of trinkets and souvenirs are still there. Kyiv's heart still beats. And probably you even hear the notes of a violin drifting through the air. You will see people
couples walking hand in hand, children chasing pigeons, and maybe even a poet quietly scribbling the poems in a cafe corner. Because it's not just a touristy street, it's a survivor street. It's the soul of Kyiv. There is a beautiful building on the street. It's called Richard's Castle, and it really looks like a castle, but it has the amazing story. This castle was built at the beginning of the 20th century as a profitable house, meaning apartments were meant to be rented out. And that was the idea of Kyiv entrepreneur. He wanted to impress the city with a bold, dramatic building, and he succeeded until everything collapsed. So this entrepreneur, he went bankrupt, and soon after, he was murdered under unexpected circumstances. And the house was completed, but the problems were only beginning, because almost immediately after construction, the building caught fire. And then came whispers and the moans, and the whole residents spoke of evil spirits. They were telling about groans that were echoing through the corridors. People who rented the houses in the Richard's Castle were telling about whistling sounds that were filling the air at night. So people fled the apartments, trembling in fear. They were convinced that the ghosts had moved in. But the truth was not that twisted, and it was not supernatural at all. Turned out that the workers who built the house were never paid in full. So as a revenge, they sabotaged the building. They placed the glass bottles, broken pipes, and metal fragments inside the ventilation system. And that created the orchestra of terrifying sounds when the wind was blowing outside. Can you imagine that? Lying in the bed and hearing moaning from the walls, sighs from the ceiling, whispers in the air. Of course, this castle gained the haunted reputation. Here on the street you can see our new theater. It's bold and unapologetically modern. What do you think? Does it revive the street or violate it? Some people say that it's a scar on the old face of Kyiv. Others say it's a statement, an example of modern and beautiful functionalism. So it breaks the fairy tale flow of the street, but if you step inside, you will discover the masterpiece of accessibility and innovation. It has elevators, text protections, the stage that tilts 90 degrees, and even offer you a little bit of snow and rain. Every street has its own folk wisdom, and on Andrew's descent, one saying was born, and it was born out of real rotting and tumbling experience. In Ukrainian, it sounds as "what fell from the cart is lost," and in Ukrainian, it means "it's gone, let it go." And in English, it sounds like finders, keepers, losers, whippers. It's just like milk spilled on the floor or a dumpling stolen by the neighbor's cat. But where did this come from? In ancient times, merchants from Podil, the lower part of Kyiv, would load their carts and climb up this winding hill towards the upper city to sell their goods. And I need to remind you that Andrew's descent was always very steep, narrow, and full of curves street. And it was overloaded with wooden carts, wobbly wheels, and the goods would fall off the carts sometimes. You know, a sack of grain there, a boot there, maybe a chicken. And guess what? There was no chance of getting it back. The street was always crowded with buyers, traders, and bored kids. The item would be gone in seconds, like a free gift from guards. But there was also the customs post on the Andrew's descent, and if anything fell by law, it belonged to the customs officers. So that was the original finders, keepers, losers, whippers. And believe me, those customs officers became very wealthy without lifting a finger, just picking up what gravity kindly delivered to them. Now we have reached Podil. It's the heart and hands of old Kyiv. The word Podil comes from the Ukrainian word for down below, because it is situated below at the foot of the ancient hills and stretches along the Dnieper River. And that was here, where the city's craftsmen, blacksmiths, potters, tailors, and traders lived and worked. Podil was Kyiv's engine. It was always loud, smoky, full of shouting and deal-making. It was the place where during winter the merchants from across Europe would gather every January to trade grains, furs, and secrets to the contract fairs. That is why the central place of Podil is Kontraktova Square, the square of contracts. Now you can see it in front of you with the Kyiv eye. Podil survived Mongol invasion in the 13th century, fires, floods, and when old Kyiv was in ashes after the Mongol invasion, Podil became the center of life.
St. Andrew's Descent is a street that always feels alive, and it offers the symphony of stories. Each house has a character, and each step on these cobblestones connect the noble life of the upper town with the working life of the lower town. With these cobblestones below your feet, with the creativity in the air, this is a kind of place that will stay in your heart long after you leave Kyiv. So don't rush here. Walk slowly, soak it, and maybe, just maybe, your own story will begin in Kyiv. Today I showed you my favorite street in Kyiv. It's a story, it's a journey, it's a symbol of everything Kyiv has, because it is ancient and youthful at the same time. It is tragic and hopeful, it is broken, and it is very beautiful.